Senior Center, so thank you all for having me. I do a lot of public speaking events locally. You guys might be my 5th or 6th venue that I've spoken at, so I'm happy to be here. And weight optimization is something that I have a passion for, mainly because I've done a lot of sporting activities in my life where I myself had to experiment with how to lean up and lean in, so I really got into exercise physiology. And then I also see an increasing need in certain states. Because if you look here at this slide, this is 2019 into 2021, and it's the percentage of obese adults. And if you look, Kentucky, we're really close to Kentucky, and that's the dark red, and that's the highest obesity. So the darker the color, the more obesity is a problem. And we're right on that, upper edge there. So it's an issue for Tennessee and Kentucky, especially in West Virginia. And so this is showing you how obesity has been growing as a problem. So, back in, what does it say here? 1990 versus 2010 versus 2030, we've all been steadily, as a population, the demographics of the United States, we've all been getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And this is something we need to reverse the trend, but we also need to understand why it happened a little bit. And then I'm going to tell you, actionable steps that you can do in your own life without drugs, without surgery, without taking, pills that you can do to start training your body to burn fat naturally. And if that's what you want to do, because weight optimization could mean gaining weight for some people, but for most of us, we're trying to lower our weight stable point, where we like to hover around. So BMI is something that doctors, use a lot, MDs, which we call, us naturopathic doctors call MDs allopathic doctors. So you might hear me use the word allopathic medicine, and that's just to differentiate it between naturopathic medicine, okay? And so MDs, typically when you come in, you'll stand on the scale, and then they will calculate out your BMI and put it in your chart. I'm not a big fan of BMI. It doesn't give you a whole lot of information because you can have a lot of muscle. It doesn't tell you your distribution, of, you could be a big bone person. So I don't place a whole lot of value to BMI, but it is an interesting baseline indicator that if you're trying to shoot for lowering your, decreasing your adipose tissue, your fat, and increasing your muscle, which we all as older people should be doing, then BMI might be helpful minorly. But you can go online and use a BMI calculator, like here, put your height and your weight, and it'll give you your BMI. 20.3 would be me right now. Okay, so this is what normal medicine would consider the healthy ranges. The healthy ranges for different ages and your gender. And like I said, I don't like to overly focus on this because it's not necessarily important. To me, what's important is building lean muscle mass, losing adipose tissue, converting your white adipose tissue to brown adipose tissue, raising your metabolic rate, having more energy, and feeling good, feeling like you look good, right? That's more important. Okay, so we're going to start talking about weight optimization. This is like an outline slide, and that's me not too long ago, right before medical school. So I don't know, 7 years ago, I guess, 6 or 7 years ago, and I was I was actively trying to lean myself up because I was doing a bicycle race across the country. So I wanted to get as lightweight as I could because I didn't have to pedal, as much, right? And I was able, in about 6 weeks, to get down into the teens, 19%, body fat, which is really good for a female, right? So it can be done, and you don't have to starve yourself, and I never counted calories, and I ate tons and tons of food. I'll describe to you how much food I ate. I ate a lot of food because I was doing so much exercise. I was always hungry, and you can't, I found for those of us trying to optimize our weight, you cannot force yourself to eat less. That doesn't work. You have to eat until you're full, and so you just have to figure out what to eat that will work for your metabolism and to stimulate it the right way. Okay, so what is weight loss not about? And these are some myths that I'm going to dispel, okay? It's not about exercising more, and I have a great video that talks about that a little bit. It's not about your genetics. Oh, well, everyone in my family is obese, and so I have it working against me, that type of thing. I'm going to show you some pictures in a little while. I'm going to go through each one of these one by one to dispel them. It's not about balancing your calories in versus calories out, because, you know, what the calorie is it a donut calorie or a broccoli calorie, makes a huge difference. So all calories are not equal, which is why you can't just do a simple equation, calories in, calories out. It does not work that way. And then it's not about a lack of discipline, because hormones, we are controlled by our hormones. And you can't fight your hormones. What you can do is balance them, so that way they're working for you, not against you. And then eating fat does not make you fat, and that is one I really want you to hear, especially in the 80s. That's when a lot of the media started becoming prevalent, and they started telling you, go on a low-fat diet. And so we've all, here in this room anyway, because I am 50 years old, so I was raised in the 70s, and I remember it in the 80s, low-fat everything, right? And that's completely wrong. So eating fat does not immediately get turned into adipose tissue on your body. In fact, that picture of me where I was all lean, right? That was me eating more fat than I ever have in my life, and I was doing it on purpose to stay full. So I was eating a huge amount of fat every day, and fat will actually help you burn fat. Eating healthy fat will help you burn fat, and I am a poster child for this, so I know it works. Okay, so let's talk about calories in versus calories out. They're not the same. We already talked about this. There was a study from the National Health Association, I can't remember what NHANES stands for. Actually, it's on the bottom. National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, which is where any of you can go there and get data for the whole country. So a lot of people who get their master's in public health, they focus on epidemiology, and will go to the NHANES information and do research using the data, demographic data from. So this is a huge amount of data, right, from the entire population of the United States, has proven that there's no correlation between caloric consumption and weight gain. So that should dispel the myth right there. Calories in, calories out is false. Does not work. Okay, so we're going to keep going. So this is another, to me, if that wasn't damning enough just looking at the data, this study, which is called the Biology of Human Starvation, and it was a study that was done that would never be allowed today because of human rights and things like that, but they were volunteers. They took a bunch of people, I don't remember how many, but it was all men, I believe, and they took their normal caloric consumption of 3,000 calories a day, and they reduced it to 1,500 calories a day to put them in a semi-state of starvation on purpose to see what would happen to their bodies. Would they lose a ton of weight and die? You know, and these were young men who really needed a lot of calories, right? And it was a fascinating results. To me, it's astounding, because what it proved was that your body changes how it functions depending on if you are caloric restricted. So in other words, if you reduce your calories, your body's going to be like, oh, I gotta lower my metabolism because I'm not getting enough calories. So resting metabolic rate dropped by 40%. That means you're doing the exact opposite of what you want to do. If you want to lose fat, you want to raise your resting metabolic rate. You don't want to lower it, because it will make it more difficult for you to lose weight. Okay? So you don't want to caloric restrict at all. You do not want your body thinking it's in starvation mode, because as soon as you do, you will not lose weight. So you have to eat until you're full, until you're satiated. Okay? Another thing, their strength decreased by 21%. Their heart rate decreased. Their stroke volume of their heart decreased. Body temperature dropped. Physical endurance dropped by half. Lack of interest in anything but food. How many of you tried to do a diet and all you could think about was food all day long, right? That's exactly, we all know this. We've all been there, okay? And then your blood pressure decreases, your inability to focus, your hair starts falling out, your hair starts turning gray, it gets brittle, your nails get brittle. So this is what happens when you do caloric restriction. It's not the direction you want to go. We want to go into a healthy direction. We want to be able to lose weight in a healthy manner, not in this dysfunctional way, okay? All right, so once again, severe chronic caloric restriction, which is considered over 30%, which a lot of people do on diets. They reduce their caloric intake by 30%, makes you cold, tired, lethargic, age faster, it makes you irritable, depressed, hungry. I mean, we all know this, we've all been there. It makes you hangry, right? You know, how many people, you know, like, you know, people say that, right? Yeah. So, and it does not help you burn fat. And interestingly, they've proven that it actually affects future generations. So your unborn child will be affected by your caloric restriction because it affects your physiology, which affects your DNA, the methylation of your DNA. So it literally has repercussions beyond you and into your children. So you don't want to do caloric restriction. I don't believe in it. I'm not a believer in it at all. Okay, so it has since been shown that timing your feedings, that's on the bottom, okay, to match the period, the active period of your circadian cycle. So circadian is your daily cycle. So when are you the most active during the day? You need to time your feeding to correspond with your most active time of the day. And but it will and then also the study showed that there was no difference in body weight among 5 low-calorie groups in this particular study. So they had people who restricted themselves 5% caloric restriction, 10, 15, 30, 35, and their body weights, there was no statistically significant correlation with their body weight. So I hope I've given you enough evidence right now to prove that calories in, calories out is not the equation you want to be thinking of to lose weight, okay? That it does not work. Okay, so what else is it not about, okay? When you restrict your calories, basically everything in yellow is what you want to actually be going, everything's backwards here. So when cortisol goes up, that's your stress hormone, okay? Then a calorie deficit makes cortisol go up. A calorie surplus makes cortisol go down. Cortisol has been proven, if it's high, stress hormone, to make you gain weight. So basically, what this graph is saying is all of these hormones go the exact wrong direction when you restrict calories, right? So that should be also telling you that's not the way we want to go. We want to lose weight, which means we have to go the other direction. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit more. So I might go back to this at the end. I was showing it a little bit before, but this video is a fantastic video, and you all will have the link in the presentation so you can watch it at home. But they explain even more why even exercising more is not going to help you lose weight. It's worth watching, absolutely. It explains how exercising more is not the answer because of this basically right here. So I took a screen capture of the video right at the important slide, which is your resting metabolism is most of where you burn your calories. And remember I told you that when you do caloric restriction, your resting metabolism goes down. Well, that's the biggest thing that's going to help you lose weight, is it going up, right? So don't restrict your calories because you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. Do you understand what I'm saying? You want your resting metabolism to go way up because that's the biggest portion of the calories you burn is your resting metabolism. So we should be all thinking, how do I raise my resting metabolism? Like, what do I need to do to raise my resting metabolism? Well, one thing is don't restrict your calories, right? Because that's going to decrease your resting metabolism, and that's the wrong direction. Then there's food breakdown, and that means like, many of us have heard that eating celery, you burn more calories trying to chew it than you do actually consuming it, right? Because it has a lot of mastication involved, that's the chewing. And that's what that means, food breakdown. And it also means not just the breakdown in your mouth, but like how much digested energy is required to digest the food. So a lot of fiber and that kind of thing. But that's still just a small little component. And then lastly is physical activity. So, only 30% of your calories out are actually under your control. So we really need to be, if we want a high yield item, like what should we be focusing on? It's our resting metabolism, okay? That's what we want. So this, I also told you how it's not genetics, right? So this is a picture of my family. So severe obesity runs on both sides of my family. And I'm showing you this to prove to you that it doesn't have anything to do with genetics. Like you don't have to, just because obesity runs in your family, and I also do nutrigenomics, right? And so that's my first cousin, hold on, go back, my first cousin, my aunt, and some other aunts and uncles and things like that. And both sides of my family are severely obese. And I did my own DNA analysis on myself, and it said severe obesity. I should be severely obese. And so I'm not, but I have also spent a lifetime trying to understand. And so this is my parents. I'm very proud of them. I live with them, and they are my biggest fans. And I keep them. We keep each other accountable for how we eat, because also diabetes runs in our family, and so we have to be very careful about controlling our blood sugar, right? So we do postprandial walking, which is walking after we eat and that kind of thing. But it helps when all three of us are aligned and helping each other. You know, that's a big thing. A lot of people have a hard time saying they have to cook for each other. But you don't, you know, just because severe obesity runs in your family does not mean that you have to be go that direction, okay? And you don't have to spend a lot of time either. Like, this is me just last year, you know, 49, I'm 50 now. And, you know, so I want this presentation to be a ray of hope for everyone. And I'm not obsessed or consumed with exercising and working out, and my parents can confirm that. Sometimes I'm sitting in my office all day working. But there are things you can do that will make a huge difference. Okay, so it's not about sugar, okay? Even about added sugar. So this one I wanted to show here. It says, what you're seeing here is that obesity is still going up. Right around 1999 is when people started decreasing their sugar intake. And did it make a difference to the obesity? No. I mean, I love looking at epidemiological studies where you take full populations and then you look at what happens, because it's eye-opening a little bit, and it sort of gives you pause on what you're being told and fed by food manufacturers and those kinds of things. So that's an interesting fact too. Now here's another interesting trend, which if you look at it and analyze it, it's very enlightening as well. So if you look at the arrow, the white arrow that's pointing down, that's right around 1976 to 1980. That's right when I was growing up, you know, in Southern California. And that's when they said low fat. Everything had to be low fat, right? And as you see, what happened to obesity as soon as we went on the low-fat diet? It went up. That's sort of interesting, right? So, once again, eating fat does not make you fat. In fact, it triggers your body to burn fat. So when we all stopped eating fat, healthy fats, we all started getting obese, right? That's what this graph seems to indicate anyway. And at least it's correlation, not causation. Those are important distinctions, but it seems to be associated. And so obesity is going up, and then you see, but something that does seem to match the yellow slope is our wheat consumption, right? Our per capita and our sugar consumption is going up because we're not eating fat anymore, right? Because if you're not eating fat, you got to get your calories from somewhere, so you're getting them from carbohydrates. Okay, so what is weight optimization about? So we just went through what it's not about, right? It's not about genetics, not about calories in, calories out. What is it about? This is a summary slide of the meat of this entire lecture right here. These are the 9 points you need to walk away with, and I'm going to go through each of them in depth. So we need to adjust our homeostatic set point down. So if you all have your temperature taken, it's 98.6. That's what a normal human temperature is. That's our homeostatic thermoregulatory set point, right? All of our bodies are going to work really hard to keep our temperature at a precise level. And to change that level, something has to disrupt homeostasis. Well, our weight is exactly like our temperature. Your body picks a set point, and no matter what you do, you can't seem to move away from that set point. If you do, you come back to it, and then you come back. I mean, how many of you have like done the cycling, you know? It's like, okay, I can lose it for a day or two, or maybe a week, and then I go right back up again, right? It's like this little sine wave with a line in the middle, because your set point wants to stay there really bad, right? So we're fighting against this homeostatic weight set point. We need to learn how to lower it. Like, what do we do to lower it, right? So that way our body wants to be less, you know, way less, right? Well, we're going to find out. And then you need to be fat adapted. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of that, being fat adapted. Okay, you might hear that word tossed around in media. Another word for it is metabolically flexible, right? Those are saying the same thing, and I can teach you what that means. And then we're going to go through all of them one by one, so I won't read them, but that's the summary slide right there. Okay, so how do we adjust our set point? So our set point is between starvation and overfed. You have this point in the middle where you're like, ah, I feel good, I'm not hungry, I'm not starving, you know, I'm not stuffed, I'm not overfull, and your body's like, that's where I want to be, right? And so if we want to adjust our set point down, we have to understand our hormones and do things that help them go the right direction. We also have to increase our thermogenesis, so our body's wanting to, it's even a partial upregulation in our temperature will burn a lot of calories. And so that means really understanding your thyroid, because your thyroid controls largely your body temperature. So if you run cold, if you're always cold and you have to put a jacket on in restaurants and stuff like that, that means you probably could naturally increase your thyroid functioning a little bit and have your body generate a little bit more heat, and that's going to burn a lot of calories, right? So there's little things you can see and think, oh yeah, my hands are cold right now, my hands are always cold, or my feet are always cold at night. Those are things that you might indicate, do some things to nourish your thyroid a little bit, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so what contributes to our homeostatic set point? These are the main things right here. These are the 5 main things that contribute to our homeostatic set point for our weight. And it's our resting metabolic rate, it's adaptive thermogenesis, it's how hot our body wants to run, and then the thermic effect of food, there's activity related, so that's the exercise component, and then post-exercise oxygen consumption, which is an interesting one that makes a huge difference, and this is the one that I took huge advantage of when I was trying to lean up for the races that I was doing, 5 or 6 years ago, right? And it works really good. So this is an article, so if any of you are interested in really diving down deep into the rabbit hole, like Alice in Wonderland, and really learning a lot about the physiology of post-exercise oxygen consumption, here's a link, you can read about it. But basically, I'm going to summarize it here for you, all these words, lots and lots of words, is if you can do a high-intensity interval workout for 5 to 10 minutes, you will continue burning fuel, fat for fuel, for sometimes up to 2 hours, okay? But you have to do a high-intensity workout, which means you need to get up to 80% to 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. And that is really hard to do. If any of you have ever used a heart rate monitor, like, you're dying when you're that high, right? You're like, oh my God, right? But you just have to do it, some say even 6 minutes. So anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes, you got to do a high-intensity interval workout, and then you'll keep burning fuel. It's this post-exercise oxygen consumption. So that's what this is saying. Heavy resistance training, okay, along with high-intensity interval training are the most effective ways to stimulate an epoch effect, which is the way you can continue. So that's going to basically lower your weight set point because it's raising your metabolic rate. All right, so let's keep going. So resistance training, this is just more. So what is resistance training? It's 3 sets that are 8 exercises, 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. That's basically it right there. And so you're like, well, I still don't know what that means. That's okay. There are books out there, and I'm going to show you some books that tell you and you can get online, just Google, give me some high intensity interval workouts, and they'll tell you what to do. And they'll have burpees, and I'll show you some pictures of them. And I hate burpees. I don't know if you guys, how many of you know what a burpee is? Oh my God, they are so hard. By the end of my HIIT workout, I can barely move, much less do the burpee, right? So anyway, okay, so now, obesity is also, it's more about hormone regulation than anything else. That's what it's about. So once again, caloric restriction makes all the hormones go opposite the wrong direction. So don't reduce your calories. Make sure you're eating enough calories, but healthy calories if you can. And then I'm going to go through, okay, here we go. All right, so cortisol is a big one. So that's one hormone. We're going to go through a bunch of hormones that are hugely significant. If you don't sleep well, your cortisol is going up. That's a stress hormone. That's going to make you gain weight. So you want to get good sleep. You want to reduce your stress. So figure out how to manage your stress, because stress causes your cortisol to go up, leptin sensitivity goes down, hunger goes up, fat storage goes up, your weight goes up. So leptin is the hormone that makes you feel full, okay? So if you're never full, and ghrelin is the hormone that makes you feel hungry. So you want leptin to be high and ghrelin to be low, okay? And Cortisol, stress, will make you never feel full. You'll never feel satiated, right? So you have to learn how to manage your stress. All right, so we're going to keep going a little bit. So this is a picture that's fascinating, and these are genetically identical mice in both cases, the white and the brown mouse, or black mouse, whatever, dark brown. And they're like identical twins. And the only difference is the scientists they inhibited leptin, which means the fat mouse never felt full, right? That's leptin insensitivity. And that's what you do to yourself when you are stressed out. You inhibit your leptin. So you become leptin insensitive and you're never full. So you want seriously, stress management will help you lose weight, okay? All right, so let's keep going. Okay, what causes low leptin? It's all kinds of things. Cortisol is a big one. Lack of high quality sleep, low protein intake. A lot of us, as we get older, we stop eating enough protein, so you want to make sure you get enough protein, and I'm going to talk about what is enough. And then you also want to reduce inflammation and get regular exercise. So those are all things that contribute to leptin. But this is an interesting one right here. Men who started exercising for 30 minutes a day for 12 weeks saw their leptin increase by 18%. That's fantastic. I mean, that's not a whole lot, 30 minutes, right? And basically it's going to make you feel full. So you're going to exercise, which is going to burn calories, and then you're going to get an added bonus of getting full quicker, so you won't want to eat as much, right? So it's like a double whammy, right? So you definitely want to try exercising because that regulates your hormones, okay? All right, so how do you increase it naturally? Well, this is a good book right here. You can buy the book if you're really interested in it, but this is basically the summary of it right here. I just already went through that a little bit. I'm going to go through intermittent fasting a little bit more, but you want to, eating healthy oils helps leptin and ghrelin, so I'm going to talk about that. But HIIT workouts and strength training, like I discussed earlier, all this is going to make you leptin sensitive, which is what you want. All right, so protein. How much is enough protein? Because usually they found in demographic populations in the U.S. anyway, we start eating less meat as we get older. So what is enough meat? So this is it. This is how you can figure out how much protein is enough. And that's a lot of stuff to look at, so I did some calculations here. So if you look here, for a 120-pound person, that would be me, and their recommendation is between 1.5 grams per kilogram or 2 grams per kilogram. So I converted my weight to 54.43 kilograms, and I multiplied it by 1.5 and 2.0. So I need to get, for me, between 82 and 110 or 109 grams of protein a day if I want to have enough protein that my hormones have the proper reaction for me to want to lose weight. Now, it doesn't have to be meat protein. It can be any protein you want, but you are going to see that you can get a lot more protein with less calories if you eat meat. So you can get protein from vegetables, but it takes a lot more calories to get the same amount. Okay, so that's okay. It's just something you need to be mindful of. And so here's a 160-pound person. They would need to get between like 109 and 145 grams of protein. And so you're like, okay, great, I have the number, but what does 145 grams of protein look like? Right? Like, that's the next question. All right, so thank you for asking. And so this picture shows, like, beef is about the size of your palm, so like a piece of steak that's in your palm, right? That's about 100 grams, and it's about 250 calories, right? But remember, I'm not big on the calories. I don't care a whole lot about them, but it is an interesting thing to look at, okay? And so, all these peanut butter, this is showing you how you can get different forms of protein, okay? And peanut butter, I like an almond butter. I like even better for when I was trying to lean up. I would get hungry sometimes before I went to bed, and it would make me lose sleep. And remember, if you don't sleep well, your cortisol goes up. So you really need to focus on your sleep and your stress. So I would eat a spoonful of almond butter before I went to bed. And Kirkland, that Kirkland brand at Costco, if any of you guys go to Costco, they got a big container of a mixed nut butter. It's like 5 or 10 different nuts all mixed together. So it's not almond butter, it's everything butter, right? And it is delicious. I mean, I really love it. It's really good. And so I just keep it in my bedroom, you know, and then if I'm hungry, you know, I'll just eat a bite of it because it gives you a lot of protein and a lot of fat, and that's going to help you go to sleep and sleep better, and it's going to help you lose weight overall in the long run. Okay, so that's just a little tip there. So here's some other protein sources so you can compare the amount of protein. You know, the beef, if you see, is 6 grams of fat, 20 grams of protein, but the salmon has 26 grams of protein and 13 grams of fat. So all of these I would consider excellent sources of protein and fat, especially if you get organic meat. Right? I really believe in organic meat because the saturated part of the fat in the meat is actually healthy for you if it's from organic meat. Because toxins are stored in animal fat, and that goes for us, even the human animal. Our toxins are stored in our adipose tissue. So you really don't want to eat non-organic meat because the fat will have all the toxins, and then you're going to then get all those toxins into your body. So it's better to eat organic meat if you can, and wild-caught fish. All right, so I'm going to talk about sleep, because sleep is critical to losing weight. Do not underestimate how important sleep is. Now, the interesting thing is, as we get older, our sleep changes, how we sleep. And it becomes more difficult for a lot of us for a lot of reasons. Older men, their prostate gets bigger, and that causes increased urinary frequency, and that's just normal. If you're lucky enough to be an older man, this is going to happen to you. It's pretty much a normal physiological thing, which means you got to get up and go to the bathroom a lot at night. Well, that's not good, and that's not good for your sleep. You can take glycine before you go to bed, and it's been proven in clinical studies to reduce urinary frequency significantly for men. And I recommend taking glycine for women as well, and I show a little tub of it right over there, because it increases your ability to build lean muscle mass, and for men and women, it helps you go into deep sleep faster and longer. So that's what this is showing here, is on the left when you're young, do you see how those white segments go down lower? That means you're going into a deep sleep cycle. It's called delta wave, and it's where the amyloid plaques in your brain are pressure washed out. They call it a pressure washer for your brain. It's the delta wave sleep. And that's what we all should be shooting for, is maximizing our delta wave sleep for cognitive health. Now, if you look, it comes natural as we're younger, and it's in the first 2 or 3 sleep cycles. That's when you get it. So if you happen to go to bed at midnight or 1 a.m. is when you go to bed regularly, you are cheating yourself of your deep sleep. Even if you sleep 8 hours, it doesn't matter. It's circadian rhythm based. It's based on light hitting your retina. So what happens is you're cheating yourself of all your deep sleep, and it will increase your risk dramatically of cognitive decline as you get older. We all need to learn how to go to sleep earlier so we can have this delta wave sleep. And then over here, as we get older, it's really hard to even get as deep. Like, not only do we get less of it, like the deep sleep cycle is shorter, but it's not as deep, which means we're not cleaning out our brain, and those amyloid plaques will start building up. So glycine is the answer. So here it is, the impact of glycine. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. Nope, you can't read it, sorry about that. The impact of glycine on sleep patterns, and what you're seeing here is you reach slow wave or deep delta wave sleep sooner, you stay in it longer, and then in the next day, you're actually more energetic and more revived. So glycine has 3 main benefits for men and 2 for women, right? Because it also has been it's been proven to reduce urinary frequency for men at night. And for men and women, it builds lean muscle mass, and it puts you into deep sleep. So highly recommend it. It's an amino acid, which means it's a food. It's derived from food. People are like, well, Deb, what actually is glycine? What is it? It's an amino acid derived from protein, so it's steak. It's steak. That's what it is, but it's just one protein that's often found in steak, and it's very, very sweet. It tastes delicious. It's like sugar. And so one awesome way to eat it is to put a spoonful of it in your chamomile tea before you go to bed, and have it as your nightly ritual before you go to bed. And it will sweeten your chamomile tea, and it will help you go to sleep at night. So I highly recommend anyone over 50 take it. It's super, super good for you. But if you want to eat a food source, pork rinds is the highest source of glycine there is. So that would be what I would recommend. Get as high quality pork rind as you can. This particular brand, Epic, is organic and fantastic. So I would recommend it. If you like pork rinds, eat them. Try to eat them at night before you go to bed because you need the glycine to help you sleep. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Sleep, also the diversity of the flora, of the bacterial flora in your gut, so your microbiome in your gut, contributes to how well you sleep and how much you lose weight. So you want a diverse microbiome. It's not that you want more bacteria necessarily, you want diversity. It's the diversity that helps you lose weight and helps you sleep. So over here, I brought this with me to show you. This is one of many. I'm not necessarily advocating this brand, but this is called Gut Connection Sleep Balance, and it's a probiotic blend just to help you sleep. Right? So these are bacteria, probiotics that have been proven in clinical studies to help you sleep. And remember, sleep is going to help you lose weight. Right? So that's why we're doing this, because sleep will decrease your cortisol, and if your cortisol goes down, your homeostatic set point of your weight will go down as well. Yes?
So should you be taking that along with that other?
That's what I do.
Sleep?
That's what I do. Sleep is a big issue for me. Like if I get stressed or I have a hard time sleeping. So, and I'll show you some more things. Like if you go back a couple slides, when you showed that graph of the deep sleep, I wear this ring called an Aura ring, and I literally graph my delta wave sleep every night, and I've done it for 8 years. Right? So I can see if I'm eating something or doing something, some kind of activity in my life that's preventing me from going into delta wave sleep. Okay? And like for me, if I drink more than 1 glass of red wine after 7 p.m., I won't go into deep sleep till way late, and it'll shorten my deep sleep cycles, right? So I can drink red wine, but earlier, and then I have to stop earlier, and I can't go beyond 2, otherwise I won't get good sleep. Right? So, but that's not for everyone. All of our bodies are unique, and we have our own unique sensitivities. Some people find that eating meat, like a big steak, too late at night, they don't get good sleep, probably because they get heartburn, and that's because of low stomach acid. So these are things where, when you really want to start dialing in for you, specifically your life, that's when people come see me as a client, and we go through their specifics, and I can look at their blood work and say, oh, it looks like you have low hydrochloric acid, do you have a hard time sleeping, do you have heartburn, and then I can start dialing in things they can do to create balance in their lives. But this right here is a general lecture, so I'm just giving you guys general tips, and you can figure out if they apply to you or not. Okay, so yes, if I'm trying to sleep every night, I take glycine, almost every night unless I forget. And you can also take it in a capsule, so if I'm lazy and I don't want to drink a cup of tea, you can get glycine in a capsule. And then I take the gut stuff, especially because I have a tendency to having gut sensitivity issues, and so it just helps me with other things as well. Like I feel a lot better intestinally when I take probiotics. So I'm like, well, I'll get a 2 for 1. I'll do the bacteria and probiotics that help with gut health and with my sleep. But, okay, so ghrelin. Ghrelin is the opposite hormone as leptin, at least that's how I like to think about it. Leptin is what makes you feel full, ghrelin is what makes you feel hungry or hangry. So the way I remember that ghrelin is the angry one, the hangry one, is I try to think of a gremlin. Ghrelin and gremlin sound familiar, they sound similar to me, so that's how I think of it. And when the ghrelin is, when your ghrelin's low, you're all nice and happy, but when the ghrelin's high, you're hangry, like the nice little gremlin turns into the evil gremlin, right? So that's why I have the picture up there. When ghrelin's high, you are hangry, right? And then when the ghrelin's low, you're happy again, right? And so what you're seeing is our goal for weight optimization should be to extend the distance between the 2 red lines, right? We want to not have our ghrelin start going up till later, right? We want to not be hangry later, right? So how do we do that? Well, fat. That's how you do it. You eat fat. If you can eat fat with your food, it will extend the time, the duration between you feeling your ghrelin going up. Okay? So healthy fats, olive oil on your salad, right? Grass-fed butter, really, really good for you. So all kinds of oils. In my house we have, I don't know, so many oils it's getting a little ridiculous, but we have macadamia nut oil and pumpkin seed oil and pistachio oil and olive oil and all these oils, and we choose which one we want. And sometimes a combination of them, and we pour them on our salad every single day, right? And we are copious about it a lot because we want that fat, that healthy fat, to help us last until dinner, right? Okay, so there you go. So how do we train our bodies to be fat adapted, which means burning fat for fuel preferentially instead of glucose? And that's what you want if you're trying to lose weight. If you're trying to lose weight, you want to be fat adapted. So let's say we put me on a treadmill right here, and somebody else on the treadmill, and we had us all exercising our tails off, for 60 minutes, right? And you can put a mask over your face, and you can exercise physiologists will measure what is in your breath as you exhale. And the components of your breath upon exhaling tells you if you're burning fat for fuel or if you're burning glucose for fuel, okay? And so a lot of people, marathon runners and other things, you'll see them, they'll have this stuff called goo, that's literally G-U, and it was just like sugar, and they would squirt it in their mouths while they're running. And that's because they would have what's called, a lot of endurance athletes, especially back in the 80s and 90s, they would bonk. Bonk means you're doing fine, and then as soon as they ran out of glucose, they couldn't function anymore, right? Because they were out of glucose. And so then they would squirt like this glucose fuel straight into their mouth. Well, what I'm just describing is someone who is not fat adapted. Because if you're fat adapted, all you gotta do is put the trigger over and now start burning fat for fuel. And even people who are super lean, you can burn fat for fuel. But if your body is always given glucose every time you're hungry, if you give your body glucose every single time you feel even the slightest hunger, you're not fat adapted. Your body's like, I'm just gonna hold out. I'm gonna hold out. I'm not gonna burn my fat for fuel because I know if I just keep telling the brain that I want glucose, she's gonna give it to me. She's going to give me that glucose, that donut, that, orange juice in the refrigerator, that apple juice in the refrigerator. She's going to give it to me. She's going to drink a big soda or something, and then I can last, and you'll never be fat adapted. You have to train your body to quickly go from burning glucose to burning fat, and you do that through a combination of intermittent fasting and carb cycling. And it's a science to it. And this is how supermodels and Hollywood actors, how they lean up for movies very, very quickly. They do exactly this right here. Intermittent fasting combined with carb cycling. And I'll describe it a little bit more, but basically, daily intermittent fasting I find to be the easiest for most people, and it means you try to restrict your feeding window. That means the window of time in every 24-hour period that you eat, you want to restrict it to as small of a window as you can. So ideally around 6 hours, but if you've never done it, I would restrict it to 7 to 8 hours, okay? So what that means is if I wake up at 7 a.m., okay, this is me personally, I don't eat, I try not to eat till between 12 and 1, so somewhere between 12 and 1 is the time that I eat my first bite of food, right? And then I eat a nice big lunch as much as I want, whatever I want. Usually it's a salad because from a diabetic standpoint, when diabetes runs in my family, we always eat a big leafy green salad, but we put tons of meat on it, leftover steak from last night's dinner, chicken, and olive oil and nuts, and just huge salads, so you're stuffed. Don't restrict it at all. And then, I'm not going to give you a few key points here with this. Then I try not to eat until dinner, although you can eat nuts. So sometimes I'll have little nuts, pistachios and walnuts and Brazil nuts in between time. And then have a nice big dinner, as much as you want. Seconds, thirds, fourths, doesn't matter. Eat until you're full, okay? And usually we try to eat exactly around 6, so we're done around 6:30. So that's from 12 to 6:30. I've done all my eating, right? And then it goes around to the next cycle. And I go to bed and wake up in the morning, and I don't eat until 12, right? So that's my feeding window. It's from 12 to 6:30, okay? And that is intermittent fasting. Now, carb cycling is where you try to eat low carb, okay? Not keto, but restrict your carbs a little bit. And there's a science to that too. If there was a dry erase board here, I would draw it. You're going to have to imagine. You want to eat your protein and your fat. Like, let's say you have this much fat you eat each day. This is all the fat you eat each day. This is all of the protein, and this is all the carbohydrates. Those are the three macronutrients, okay? And so here's all the fat for my whole day, and I'm going to distribute it between all of my meals, right? Now, what happens is if you want to train your body to burn fat, you want to, if this is, here, I'm going to go this way. So if this is 0 over here for when I'm first eating so I have a 6-hour window. So 0 to 6 hours is when I'm eating all my food. You want to eat high fat first, and you want to go like this throughout your feeding window. So you want to eat less fat throughout the day, most at the beginning of the day. And same with protein's about in the middle, so you can distribute it right, evenly all through. And then you want carbs, low carb at the beginning of your feeding window, and you want high at the end. So your high carb meals, let's say you're gonna eat spaghetti, don't eat it for lunch, eat it for dinner, right? Let's say you're gonna eat pancakes, don't eat it for breakfast, eat it for dinner, right? The high carb meal needs to be last in your feeding window, and the high fat meal, and high protein needs to be first. Because what happens is your body, when you eat fat, does not see it as carbohydrate, and so you haven't broke your fast yet. That's why they call it breakfast. You're breaking your fast. So you don't want to break the fast, right? And you break a fast with carbohydrates. So don't break it. Eat your fat first and your protein first, and then go down, okay? And so that will, since you fasted all night long, you fasted, and now your body's like, I want sugar, but you're not giving it sugar, you're not giving it carbohydrates, which is sugar. Instead, what you're giving it is fat. And so you're telling it, I'm not giving you any carbs, you're gonna have to burn fat. I'm giving you, so when you give your body fat first thing in the morning, you're saying burn fat. And it will, that will flip the trigger over for you to start burning fat, okay? If you eat sugar first thing in the morning, a big glass of orange juice and pancakes, you're telling your body you don't need to burn fat for another 24 hours, and that's what happens. 24 hours you will not burn fat, right? So you have to train your body to burn fat, and that's how you do it. Okay, so this is what I was showing you here, the science of fat adaptation. This would be me right here on a low carbohydrate diet. I will burn fat right away. If the exercise cycle is on the bottom, but somebody else is going to be burning carbohydrates, and they're never going to be able to burn as much fat as me because I've trained my body to not resist burning fat. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so we're going to keep going. So you also need to, so that was macronutrients. I just talked about carbohydrates, fat, and protein, and how to optimize when you eat them during the day, okay? Now there's micronutrients. There are micronutrients that help your body also stimulate your body to burn fat. Iodine nourishes your thyroid, which will raise your thermogenesis, meaning how hot your body runs, and you will be able to burn fat just by having a higher resting metabolic rate, right? So have you ever seen like Costco places or Trader Joe's, they have those seaweed chips and stuff? Those are really delicious. They have some spices on them. That's a great way to get natural iodine. And then also folate helps a lot with burning fat. And then zinc is great. It's also great for men's prostate, so I highly recommend zinc foods, like legumes and those kinds of things. But these are all been clinically proven in studies to help reduce weight, help you lose weight. Okay, so here's some meals that you could consider. The rice, maybe not as much because of the carbohydrates, but like that's mashed chickpeas right over here, and like lentils, that's a lentil stew. These are all will help you lose weight. Okay, so this is what I already talked about. How do you pick, so I talked about when you eat the fat in your window, and when you eat the carbohydrates, but I didn't say what should the ratio be? Like what should the ratio of fats to carbs to protein be? You want higher fat, okay, moderate protein, and low carbs. So, and really healthy carbs. The carbs you do eat, you want them to be healthy, like lentils or chickpeas or spaghetti squash, butternut squash. Okay, we talked about stress. You want to reduce stress for sure. You want to control inflammation, because inflammation is linked to weight gain. So if you have like an arthritis and your arthritis is acting up, turmeric is a great food that you can eat, and you take it as a supplement that reduces your systemic inflammation. It's been shown clinically to work very well, but you have to take enough of it. So these are the foods that help reduce inflammation in your body, and these are foods that increase it. And let's see here. Also, I found something that's very helpful is to find sugar substitutes. So I brought 2 of them here with me, D-ribose and glycine, but these are all sugar substitutes, and I don't know why that got distorted there, but the ones on the right especially here are fantastic. So glycine, we've already talked about, is amino acid, it's steak, it's like sugar, it's great to have at night. You can put it in your coffee in the morning as well. Lakanto is fantastic. It's an erythritol mixed with monk fruit, and it's used in Japan in hospitals for diabetics, so it's very, very effective, and I love it. That's my favorite one. It tastes the most like sugar to me, so I'll put it in my coffee sometimes in the morning. And then D-ribose is very sweet. You guys can put some on, we'll get a spoon and you can taste it if you want, but it is a nutrient that strengthens your heart. So for anyone who has congestive heart failure or CVD, cardiovascular disease, I highly recommend you take D-ribose anyway. But if you're going to take it, you might as well put it in your coffee or something that you want sweet because it tastes delicious. So my dad puts D-ribose in his coffee every morning, and so do I, since heart disease runs in our family. And allulose, that's and all these sweeteners, if you want to learn more about them, I talk about them right here. And I explain exactly like what they are, you know, like what is it exactly. But allulose is an epimer of fructose, which just means your body sees it differently, and it's actually been proven to lower your blood sugar, and it tastes delicious as well. So all of these are very acceptable sweeteners. The only one I don't recommend that you consume daily and regularly is xylitol, because it is a sugar alcohol that can, over time, lead to digestive distress. But I do recommend you have it in your house. And the reason why is because it is absolutely fantastic for oral hygiene. And remember, I opened this lecture saying oral hygiene is a passion of mine because it leads to, bad oral hygiene leads to heart disease. Right? And xylitol is one of the best things you can do to help your oral bacteria and microbiome regulate, so it will not lead to increased cardiovascular risk. So I dip my toothbrush in it and brush my teeth, you know, with it. I also do oil pulling with coconut oil. You can also a lot of gums nowadays have xylitol in the gum, and that's why. It's the small amount that you would have in your mouth to brush your teeth, but you spit out is not a problem. And the small amount that's in gum is not a problem. I just wouldn't put a spoonful of it in your coffee every single day. Some people can do it, and it doesn't cause digestive distress, but I don't recommend it. There's too many other good ones to consume. But xylitol is also good to put, how many of you have heard of a neti pot to like do a saline flush? Fantastic. You will find, if you go to Walmart, there's a bottle, a squeeze bottle called Neil Medi, you know, it's just a squeeze bottle that you squish, you can put salt in it and water, and you flush your sinus with it. And they have these little salt packs that you put into it for the saline flush. There's now one called xylitol neti medi, and that's what I recommend. And whoever put that in there is an absolute genius. They should have done it during COVID, because that's what I was recommending. If you put xylitol and saline in a saline flush, it will kill any bacterial pathogen or viral pathogen that is trying to proliferate in your nasal passages, such as COVID. It will kill it. And it works, it's the same reason why it kills the bacteria in your mouth, the bad bacteria, right? So it's fantastic to use as a nasal flush, and it tastes delicious, it's sweet. So really good thing to have in your home medicine cabinet. Just don't eat it. Like, don't consume it like you would in baking. But all the rest, you can. And we do in my family. Okay, so another thing is find other things to drink. We are addicted to soda, right? We really are in this country. We are addicted to soda. Find other things to drink. Now, interestingly, what date is it? October 6th. No, when am I doing the Healing Teas and Beverages one at the community center? In Norris, okay, the city of Norris, I'm doing a talk. My next talk is called Healing Teas and Beverages, and it will blow your mind. And it's like an over an hour talk on healthy things that you can choose to drink besides soda, right? And I have tons of samples set up of everything. And it'll blow your mind. There's so many big options you have that you can get excited about that will not increase your blood sugar. So I highly recommend you take the trip down to Norris and come to it if you're interested. I know it's a long way from here because I had to drive there this morning. It's an hour, but I will be doing a whole series of health talks there. But maybe I can come back here and do the healing teas and beverages, in which case I will bring all my samples. But I use a soda stream maker, and that's what this is. It's a little carbon dioxide thing where you make your own carbonated water. And then I use these right here, these Gene soda drops. And there's 8 different flavors. This is one of the most delicious flavors. It's their first one, and it's an herbal tincture. But you squeeze a dropper full into your glass, and then you pour your carbonated water, and it tastes exactly like Coke. And it's medicinal. It's anti-cancer fighting. It has. It's hard to believe how delicious it is until you taste it. And if I come back and I do that particular talk here, then you guys will get to taste it, because I will bring my 8 different flavors for you to try. And
Is that readily available?
yes, it is. You can buy it today. Yeah.
I mean, at stores?
No, you usually have to order it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, because it's not popular. It's not. I don't think it's at Whole Foods yet. It's pretty new, but it tastes delicious. I mean, it's amazing. They have vanilla orange flavor. They've got vanilla cream. They've got root beer flavor. It's just amazing. But their main flavor is like cola. It's like a cola flavor, and that's this one. And it tastes. It's hard to believe how good it tastes, and it's actually medicinal. So it's healthy for you, and there's no sugar. So there are options worth exploring. Some other things that you can try drinking. Remember, having your food be anti-inflammatory food is key to lowering your homeostatic set point. You don't want inflammation in your body, and dairy and wheat cause all of us to have a minor amount of inflammation. So if weight loss is your goal, try to limit your dairy. So if you put cream in your coffee, try not to do that. Find something else besides cream. I use an MCT oil powder, and it's delicious. It tastes like cream. It's unbelievable, and it's fat. So remember, I keep my feeding window to 12 to 6:30. You can have one exception though. You can eat fat, but it has to be nothing but fat. So you can eat fat before that. And so I have a cup of coffee with a spoonful of what looks like a white creamer powder, which is MCT oil powder, and that's fat. That's medium chain triglycerides, and it's been proven to help you lose weight. And so, but you can also use, any of these are delicious. If you've never had macadamia nut milk, you need to try it. It's really, really good. It's creamy. I also make my own almond milk, which is way better than the store-bought, but it's a lot of work, so it doesn't happen very often. Okay, so we already talked about the role of sleep and weight loss. This is a TED Talk that's worth watching. It's amazing. It'll make you put sleep as a priority in your life. Here's an interesting graph that hopefully is going to hit home with you on just how important sleep is. So someone who has 5 hours and 30 minutes in bed they'll burn 20% fat. Somebody has 8 hours, so 3 hours more, will burn 48% fat, with everything else being equal. That's just sleep. That's just getting more sleep. Doesn't get any easier than that, right? So make sleep a priority. It will help you lose weight. All right. So then we already talked about the gut microbiome and the link, and this has been proven in many, many studies that having a diverse microbiome in your gut will help you lose weight. So those are some studies. If you want to look at it, you can click on the link when you get this. So one way to naturally increase your microbiome without having to take pills, because many of us are taking so many pills, the idea of taking more pills is not appealing. So eat pickles, eat kimchi, eat sauerkraut, eat fermented foods, but you have to do it daily. So find something you like and eat it daily, right? Okay, so now we're going to talk about the best exercises for weight loss. We already talked about it a little bit. I touched on it. It's high-intensity interval training and strength training. Those are the two that's going to have the EPOC, the excess, post-oxygen consumption, which is what you're looking for, right? So this is it right here. This is an example of a HIIT, a high-intensity interval workout, and it's short. You jump rope, you just do, as fast as you can, 120, you can count them. You do 60 seconds of burpees. I literally put my watch on the ground and do them, so I can see, because I'm like, it's hard. But you have to push yourself. That's the thing. You need to get your heart rate up, so you just gotta force yourself to do it, right? And mountain climbers, how many of you know what a mountain climber is? I'll demonstrate if you don't, but it's like this right here, right? That's a mountain climber. okay? You just do that for 60 seconds, right? Tuck jumps, I do it on a rebounder, and where you jump up as high as you can, and then I try to get my knees to hit my chest, right? Both of them at the same time, right? I can't do it on the ground. When I was a little kid, I could, but now I can't. Anyway, so you jump up and you just get your knees as high as you can, right? You're on a rebounder, I can get them way high, right? And you will, like, 3 jumps, right? When you really start getting, your heart rate goes way up instantly. Then I do push-ups for 60 seconds, plyo box jumps. Now, remember, this may not be what you guys want to do, but my mom's done it with me before when we were in San Antonio. We did it at my sister's house. We did a little HIIT workout, and we just had a little curve. It was just like a step, right? And that's a jump. Because remember, anytime you use the muscles on your legs, both at the same time to jump, your heart rate instantly goes up, okay? So we just jump up on the step, jump down again, jump up on the step, jump down again, right? And so the higher you can jump, the better, but you gotta be careful because you don't want to fall flat on your face and you're gonna get tired, right? So like I have a box that I jump on and I can set the height with it, but I also I put all these finger foam mattresses around in case I'm tired and I do a face plant over it. I don't want to like hurt myself. So yeah.
What about doing these exercises in water?
I'm not going to say no, but I will say the idea is to be breathing hard and to have your heart rate going like this in your chest, right? So if you can get your heart rate up, that's what we're looking for, heart rate, right? So, and then squats. I do 10, so I usually hold this little squishy ball that I got from Big Lots. I'm a big spender, you know. And you can, the athletic section, they're amazing what you can find at Big Lots. But anyway, and so I hold it like this, my ball, right? And then I try to do a deep squat. So, and I'll tell you, there's several benefits to being able to do this, but go all the way down as deep as you can, holding a 10-pound or 7-pound weight, and then stand all the way back up again, right? And then go down again, and then go back up again, right? And so that's what I do, and I sometimes do it also on a whole body vibration machine because that will heal your knee joints and your hips, and it will increase bone density, so it's like a bonus. I'm all about like 2 for 1, 3 for 1 special, you know? Like if I can get 3 or 4 things for 1, I do it, right? So I have a whole body vibration machine that vibrates at a high frequency that will increase bone density because I'm in menopause and I'm light enough weight that osteoporosis is, I'm in the risk group. So I have to shake, when you get on a whole body vibration plate, it mimics jumping. And jumping is what makes your bones dense. And now many of us, as we're older, jumping is not something we can do. So if you can't jump, you can stimulate or simulate jumping by a whole body vibration plate. And you can increase your bone density very quickly. 10 minutes a day. Yes?
So I'm seeing a lot of those exercises probably wouldn't be feasible for a good majority of seniors.
That's exactly right.
So is there something else they could do to?
Absolutely. In fact, my mother goes to Take Charge Fitness. Is there one of those around here? Take Charge Fitness. So I know that at Take Charge Fitness, they have some amazing instructors who put them through high-intensity interval type training for people who can't jump or who've had hip injuries and knee injuries, and it's fantastic. My mom, please talk to my mother afterwards because she is an expert at it. There's a lot of great places that have trainers, like YMCAs and things, but the books that you just look at online, just literally I would type in the Google search window, say, HIIT for seniors, HIIT for elders, and it will get there all free. You know, they'll give you workouts for free and say, do these 8 exercises, and that's it. But you have to be intense, right? That's the hard part, is like really pushing yourself. But then, and you know, what I did for mine is I found the ones I like. So like I printed out on my printer like 4 or 5 of them, and then I'm like, okay, I want that one, that one, and I made my own HIIT workout. So now I've got all these little flashcards, you know, and I put them in my garage, and I have them taped, you know, on the wall. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this one today, right? And I didn't buy a book or anything. I just did it for free and made my own. So it's worth doing. You can Google it. You can make your own HIIT workout that will work for you. And so that's what I recommend. Rebounding is great. I highly recommend rebounding. If you can buy the stabilizers, so like the stabilizing bars, so you can hold onto a stabilizing bar, and you don't have to be up in the air like is shown here. You can keep your feet connected and just bounce like that, and it will raise your heart rate, and it's very easy on your joints, and it's one of the best exercises for weight loss. And I have tons of clinical studies to prove that. The only disadvantage of it is, you need to be able to feel comfortable that you can balance by holding on to the stabilizing bar. And I didn't today, but a lot of times when I do this lecture, I'll bring my rebounder in and I'll show people. I really like the Bellicon rebounder. That's the brand I like because it's quiet. So it's not, it's not making a crazy noise while you're trying to watch television or something, right? You can actually watch the movie and not be annoyed by the noise. And it's a very soft feeling. It doesn't have a stiff spring feeling. It feels really soft. So it's just fantastic, and I found it, it's an amazing tool to use. So here are some sample ones. I told you could Google different, these are ones I got in 2 minutes, and you just type in HIIT, H-I-I-T, and maybe if you add it on for elders or for seniors or for 50 plus or something like that, then you can get ones and start looking and say, oh, well, I don't like to do, planks, but I like to do tricep dips or something like that, right? And you don't need a lot of equipment for a lot of this either. So just find, like lunges, most of us can do little lunges like this, right? You can go like this, and if you can hold, something, a ball, to add a little extra weight, that's fantastic, right? Yes?
So just doing it even that slow is going to get the intensity that
you need to figure out for you what's going to get your heart rate up. And it's typically using your legs. Somehow using your legs is
and
what
how do you know how high that heart rate needs to be?
it's 80 to 90%.
Well, your husband.
So, like for me, the only way I would know is I got a heart rate monitor, right? And you can buy heart rate monitors pretty cheap nowadays. And if weight loss is truly your goal, and you want to try to, then I would buy a heart rate monitor, because then you'll know if you're working hard enough.
And can you achieve that on a stationary bike?
Yes, yes you can. Yeah. And if not immediately, you can start working up to it. A lot of times people will have a knee injury or a hip injury, and in those cases, that's when I would recommend come see me. I have clients, and I work with them personally to create a program for them. Right, so I have all the equipment, and we will find something that works, right? And they can put on my heart rate monitor, and we can figure out what's going to work for you, But a lot of people can figure it out on their own. So it's just how much help you want, right? So, but yes, you can do all kinds of stuff. There's just a lot of choices. Jump roping I like a lot because you don't have to jump very high. You just barely. Sometimes I'm so tired though that then the rope hits me and then I have to start over again, right? But jump roping is pretty easy, and that's very effective at getting your heart rate up. And okay, so this one I really wanted to see. Maybe we're already over, so I'm not going to. This is a fantastic TED Talk that talks about how you can lose weight if adipose tissue, which is fatty tissue, needs a blood supply. And so does cancer, by the way. It needs a blood supply. And if you can cut off that blood supply, which is anti-angiogenesis, which means stopping building of blood vessels to that tissue, then you can lose that adipose tissue. And so he's talking about foods that you can eat that will be anti-angiogenesis. And one of them is green tea. So like if you like to drink green tea, great. But like here is from Costco, green tea fat burner. It has everything concentrated in it, and this is anti-angiogenesis, so it's extremely effective in hundreds of studies at helping you lose weight, is green tea. But 2 cups a day, you just need 2 cups a day.
Doesn't green tea don't have like a lot of caffeine?
No.
So we're talking about going to sleep and...
Yeah, so green tea has a lot less caffeine than coffee, so a lot is a relative term. For some people who are very sensitive to caffeine, potentially, it would be too much. You might not want to drink it after 4 p.m. or something like that. But for most people, it's such a small amount of caffeine that it doesn't affect your sleep. But everyone's sensitive. You're gonna have to figure that out on your own. You can get these supplements that have all the benefits of green tea in a pill, but a lot of us are tired of that. I prefer to just drink the tea if I can, but you have to do 2 cups a day for it to be therapeutically effective. Right, so 2 cups a day of green tea if you want to actually have an effect on your weight. And then these are the other foods. So these are curcumin is turmeric. So these are all different foods that you can eat that will have been proven to break the blood supply to the adipose tissue so you can lose it. Okay, so here, another thing about adipose tissue is you want it to be brown fat and not white fat, because brown fat burns more calories and it helps you actually be healthy. So the best way to do that is to end your showers on cold. So in other words, the last minute or 30 seconds to a minute of your shower, put it on as cold as you can stand, and it will over time convert your adipose tissue to brown adipose, and it will help you lose it. It's very hard to do, I will admit. I don't do it religiously because I don't like it, but it works really, really well.
I've also heard that taking the last few minutes of your cold shower helps with depression and helps with
Adrenal glands, it helps with tons of stuff. It's one of those miracle things that are totally free that I can talk to a very long time about. It's a contrast hypnotherapy technique that will help you kickstart your thyroid, kickstart your adrenal glands. I mean, it's just an amazing, cheap thing, and if you can get in the habit of doing it, it will change your life. End your shower on cold. But I'll be honest, I don't like doing it. I'm a bit of a wimp. But when I got into the habit of doing it, it does work. And like when I was trying to lean up, I did it every day. I did full body cold plunges. I bought an agricultural stock tank, and I would dip my whole body in it. So I'd get in the hot tub, and then I would get into the cold tub, and then the hot tub, and then the cold tub, right? And I would do it back and forth to stimulate my adipose tissue. And that's how I got really lean really quickly. So
I'd rather do that than burpees too.
I would too, actually. Burpees, oh my gosh, they're like hell exercise.
Does it have to be cold water or can it
As
just
cool
be-
as you can
No,
stand.
but can it just be getting out of your shower?
No.
into a
You really need to like put it on cold. Yeah. And there's even like, they say less than 6 degrees is the best. But I mean, I'll tell you, 65 is like cold as I can stand, So then there's vitamin D. Vitamin D has been linked to deficiency. It's been linked to being more overweight. So make sure you get your blood levels of vitamin D checked. Here's some vitamin D foods. I know we're going over, so I'm going to quickly go through this. If you're a dark-skinned person, you're going to need a lot more sunlight to get the same. So supplementation might be more effective.
how do you know though how much? Because I've looked at those and they go from anywhere from 1,000 plus,
Yeah, you're talking about the supplements?
Yes,
Yeah.
for vitamin D.
Absolutely. So you need to have your blood levels checked, right? So you need to ask your primary care physician to check where you're at. And you want to be between 60 and 90 is my recommendation, is what your biomarkers. So most of us are, if you're not supplementing, are lower than 30, and that's very deficient, and it's going to make you have a hard time losing weight. So I can't tell you how many to take, how many I use to take, because I haven't looked at your blood. I do functional blood chemistry analysis, and that's where I help people determine for them what the optimum amount is. But for almost all adults, 1,000 IUs is safe and helpful and indicated. Now, some studies, I was just reading on the car drive here, I was in the back reading one of my medical books, and they were saying 4,000 IUs. So so different naturopathic physicians and allopathic doctors will give you between 1,000 and 4,000 IUs without even looking at your blood, right? I don't like doing that. I like looking at your blood first. I'm going to go with 1,000, okay? But I'm going to tell you to be cautious, and I have a picture here because, it'll also help resist COVID and those. You'll see a lot of articles about COVID and vitamin D. Vitamin D3 is very, very, very effective. It's a hormone. It's considered a hormone from a medical perspective. Okay, and remember, weight loss is all about hormones, so vitamin D is great. The thing is, it's so effective that it makes the calcium from your food more bioavailable, which means your serum calcium level is going to go up. You're like, great, I don't want osteoporosis, this is great, right? Well, no, listen, I don't want it in your blood, I want it in your bones. But it raises it so high, so quickly, that the calcium doesn't know where to go, and it sticks to your arterial walls, and it significantly raises your risk of a coronary event. So all these doctors are saying, take vitamin D3 for COVID, and they're not telling you that you're increasing your risk for a coronary event. Okay? Now, you can decrease your risk for coronary event if you take it with K2 and vitamin A. So you need K2, vitamin K2 is like the chaperone. It's like, here's the calcium in the bloodstream. It's like, oh, there you are, calcium, and it grabs the hand of the calcium and it escorts it to where it's supposed to go. So you have to take D3 with K2 so that way you don't inadvertently increase your risk of a coronary event. Yes?
So is it safe to just say we left here and go to Walmart and buy all these different supplements? Or do we need to have our blood tested first?
So, as I said before, I would consider it safe to say 1,000 IUs of D3
And
for
I'm talking
almost
about-
anyone.
I'm talking about any supplement. I'm not just talking about the D3. I'm talking about like all these other supplements that we talked about also.
So as my disclaimer at the beginning, I'm always going to say defer to your primary care physician, okay? But the things that I choose for this lecture are very, very safe, okay? And if I have any concern about any of them, I tell it to you, which is what I'm telling you now, and I would tell this to any one of my clients. If you take D3, you need to be taking K2. And I'm very adamant about that because coronary artery disease and heart attacks are the #1 killer in this country. And I don't want to inadvertently raise your risk of a coronary event because you're trying to lose weight. Right? So take K2. No one should take D3 without K2. Now the good news is they come like this. You can buy them in these supplements called ADK. There's tons of them. I don't have any preferential treatment or preference for any brand. Okay? But taking vitamin A, D3, and K2 together is the perfect mix. Okay, and it's safe for anyone and everyone. Anybody here could take ADK daily, and it's going to be good for you. So now there's cheaper brands. I've talked so much about this in the Oak Ridge Senior Center that people have come up to me and said, "I found this one. Is this one good?" And so there are other brands that are a lot less expensive than the ones I'm showing up here. So if you can find the right brand, great. But I like this one, the two that I'm showing, because it has the right ratio. So you want, for every 1,000 IUs of D3, you want 100 mcgs of K2. That's the correct ratio to not raise your coronary event risk. Okay? So 1,000 to 100, 1,000 to 100. That's what you're looking for.
Is that for any age group also?
Yes.
Or it is?
Yeah. Now, for someone like my father here, who has a history of arterial calcifications, okay, I recommend twice the K2, right? Because the K2 is going to take that arterial calcium and chelate it. It's going to bind to the arterial calcium and pull it out of your arteries. It's going to clean up your arteries. The K2 will, because K2 loves calcium, and if you have kidney stones, if you have a predisposition to kidney stones, the more K2, it will pull that calcium in those stones out of your kidneys. If you have gallstones, it'll pull that calcium, right? So, like, if you have bone spurs in your hands, and like bigger joints, and you're getting osteoarthritis, it will pull that calcium from where it's not supposed to be and put it to where it's supposed to be. That's what K2 does. So, as I'm saying, generally speaking, not knowing anything about your individual issues, 1,000 IUs of D3 to 100 mcgs of K2 is awesome, okay? But many of you might have conditions that would require more K2. But I would never recommend less, ever. Does that make sense?
Does that brand have the additional?
No, this brand is what I would call the perfect ratio. And then if I want someone to take more K2, I have a K2 supplement that I say, then take this extra one for 3 months, and then we'll check here, whatever. See it. Like my mom has her fingers are starting to go in different directions because of joint issues. And Mom, would you say that it's being reversed with K2? So it's now reversing, right? So the K2 is working really, really well.
Why isn't that all over the place? I mean, that should be like...
Because naturopathic medicine is illegal in the state of Tennessee. We have 3 states where it's illegal, and it's Tennessee, South Carolina, and Florida. It's a misdemeanor to practice naturopathy in these states. So I'm just doing public health education. I'm as a certified health education specialist. Okay, so we have gone over, so I'm going to say this is more information here about green tea and how effective it is. Get yourself some green tea And then other supplements are minorly helpful. I can talk about them if you want to come up here. But the main one that I really like is green tea, and you can drink it. You don't have to take it. But the other supplements that say that they're going to help you lose weight are very minor yield. They're not a high yield item. They're not a way that you might get a little bit of gain from them, but the big gains are what we talked about here. And that's it. So thank you. This is everything right here, my whole philosophy.